In the Celtic religion, the head was considered to hold an individual's essence or soul. Head hunting was an essential byproduct of Celtic warfare. Normally, an enemy's head was treasured, except in those instances when the enemy was regarded as half human or bestial. Then the enemy's head was given to the children to use as they thought fit, normally resulting in what we would today call a ball game, from which football and rugby derive.
The history of Indian football is a history of hope, despair, patriotism, despondency, success, and failure. Over the last 200 years, football has evolved from just a game into a symbol of nationalism and social integrity. India was introduced to football by the Europeans. With the advent of the British East India Company and its flourishing business, more and more Britishers started coming to India, and with the Brits, naturally, came their religion and their culture. A culture which importantly included games: football, rugby, cricket.
Football started its journey in India when the British rulers brought it with them, and in no time it became popular among the masses. The port cities of Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Karachi began resounding with the arrival of the British, who, in their leisure time, took up football as their favorite sport. The French, Portuguese, Dutch were the other Westerners lured by the riches of India. Some of them set up schools in Darjeeling, Nagpur, Nainital, and other places, and encouraged students to play football. From the year 1877, the students of St. Paul's School, Darjeeling, under the guidance of their teacher, Edmund Cox, started practicing football on a regular and organized basis. By and by, competitive matches began to be played. India was standing on a political threshold. Lord Wellesley, Earl of Mornington, was appointed the Governor-General of India. The British colony had begun penetrating its roots deep into our soil. The subsidiary alliance policy was gradually being made effective. At about this time, the governor's house was coming up in Calcutta. Against this political backdrop, in the year 1802, according to the Englishman, a reputed daily published from Calcutta, the first football match was probably played in India for 30 minutes in Bombay between the military 11 and the island 11. As reported in the Englishman, 13th of April 1854 was an important date in the history of football, as the first officially recorded match was held on this day at the Esplanade ground near Fort William between the Calcutta Club of Civilian and Gentlemen of Barrackpore. Within 3 years, the sepoys were to rise in mutiny against their foreign masters. (1877). Calcutta, the capital of British India, the most important city in the country. On a summer afternoon, some Englishmen were playing football. One of them kicked the ball so high that it landed at the feet of a young lad who was accompanying his mother down the street. The foreigners saw the boy clutching the ball. They instigated him, saying, "Kick the ball! Kick!" The boy responded immediately. He kicked the ball so hard that his spectators began to applaud him. Nagendra Prasad Sharbadikari created history by being the first Indian to kick a football. And he is regarded as the father of Indian football. Number 53 Wellington Street, presently Nirmal Chandra Street, a street in Kolkata. It is here that the father of Indian football spent his childhood. Years have rolled by. The ownership of this house has changed hands, and so has its outward looks. But history has left an indelible impression on this house. Nagendra Prasad was a student of Hare School. He, along with his friends, practiced football on the playground of their school. After completing school, Nagendra Prasad joined Presidency College for higher education. Here, he came across professors like J.H. Gilligard and G.A. Stack, who encouraged talented students to diligently play football. The students of La Martiniere, Bishop College, Calcutta Medical College, and Shivpur BE College were also very enthusiastic about this game. But Nagendra Prasad and Presidency College outshone the others. The Intercollegiate Championship was won by Presidency continuously from 1904 to 1908.
Nagendra Prasad was convinced that in a country and a society as diverse as ours, football could help integrate multilingual, multi-religious, multi-ethnic communities. And also, of course, it developed character, discipline, and health. And these views were heartily reciprocated by all sections of society, irrespective of caste and creed. But, unfortunately, differences developed between Nagendra and Wellington Club on his views on social integration. And ultimately, Nagendra left Wellington and founded the Shobha Bazaar Club. The first open football tournament in India was instituted in 1889 and was called the Trades Cup. Apart, of course, from clubs in British India, Teams came from Europe and America to participate in this tournament. The Lieutenant Governor General of Bengal, Lord Lansdowne, used to be present at the finals to give away the prizes. Nagendra Prasad's Shobhabajar Club was the only Indian team to participate in this tournament and won the cup in 1892. Nagendra Prasad continued to be active in the cause of football in Calcutta, and under his initiative, clubs like the Presidency Club, the Howrah Sporting Club, and the Aryans came into existence. And these clubs were actively patronized by the elite families of Calcutta.
Mohun Bagan Club was founded in the year 1889, followed by other clubs like the Calcutta Customs Club in 1892 and the Calcutta Rangers Club in 1896.
The formation of the Indian Football Association in 1892 was a landmark event in the history of Indian football. The IFA was set up basically to institutionalize the game, but also to exercise some kind of dominance over the football clubs run by the Indians.
Let us now go across the country, from the east coast to the west. Towards the middle of the 19th century, the youthful exuberance of football was sweeping Goa, which is now a small state on the western coast of India. Football was brought to Goa by an Irish priest, the Reverend F. William Robert Lyons. He had gone to Goa from Karnataka to recuperate his health. The Reverend was so fascinated by Goa that he continued to live there. He founded a school at Seolim, introduced football at Seolim, and also added the game to his school curriculum. The first match was played in Goa in the year 1900 at Largo de Concheicha, in the august presence of the then Governor General of Goa. This match was the beginning of a series of matches played throughout the next decade. The excitement of football gripped Goa in a short time, and soon the game began to be played almost everywhere. The Boys Social Club was the first football club founded in 1905 in the coastal village of Kalva in Goa. In the same year, the Panjim Boys of Goa clashed with St. Mary's College of Bombay in the first interstate match. Britain defeated Margao Boys by 1-0 in the first match played against a foreign team at Largo dos Quartes.
At the turn of the 20th century and with the 21st century, the club culture started coming more into Indian football. Previously, it only existed in Calcutta, Mohun Bagan, East Bengal and Mohammedan Sporting. Others were institutional teams who hired players, kept some of them on contract, some got jobs. But gradually that changed with the Goa teams also coming into the forefront. And really in this case, Churchill brothers must be mentioned. Because previously the Goa teams like Vasco, Dempo and Salgaonkar, they were like a cartel. They had decided a benchmark, a price that we won't pay a player more than 5,000 rupees a season or 10,000 rupees a season. And all the owners collaborated in that. Churchill brothers broke this monopoly. They came and they were the big money spenders of Goa football. They started importing players from Manipur, from the northeast, getting players from abroad. The Churchill brothers who made the difference in Goa football. And then Salgaonkar, Dempo and Vasco also realized that to cope up, they will have to also develop their teams as clubs. And so the Goa clubs came to rival the Calcutta clubs, and the club culture developed in Indian football.
The British footballers tended to look down on their Indian counterparts. And as if to rub in the fact, the First Division Football League of Calcutta, which began in 1898, barred all Indian teams from taking part till 1914. National pride was hurt, and an opportunity had to be found to avenge this loss of dignity. That opportunity came on the July 1911 on the battleground of football. But before telling that story, let us go back a little to the political situation and the political history around 1905.
The partition of Bengal was announced by Lord Curzon on the 16th of October, 1905, sparking a major political crisis. Hindu and Muslim resistance exploded. The people of Calcutta, irrespective of nationality, social position, creed, sex, observed it as a day of mourning. Resistance against the British Raj and its anti-India policies continued unabated. The Imperial Darbar of 1911 was held to commemorate the coronation of King George V and Queen Mary and their proclamation as Emperor and Empress of India. Tagore penned Jano Gano Mano Adhinayaka Jayo He in 1911 at the Calcutta session of the Indian National Congress.
1911, something unprecedented and for the seemingly invincible British, unbelievable happened. A core Bengali team, Mohun Bagan, defeated the mighty East Yorkshire Regiment. This was seen as a victory in the field of sport, of course. But more than that, it was also seen as a triumph of Indian nationalism.
Newspapers throughout the world, like the London Daily, the Manchester Guardian, the Singapore Times, and local newspapers like Empire, Weekly Musalman, and Comrade, published the news of the victory of Mohun Bagan, appreciating and complimenting its skill and courage. The Manchester Guardian commented, "The team comprising the Bengalis won the IFA Shield by defeating 3 top military teams. 80,000 Indians will remain witness to this event."
Mohun Bagan's performance at the IFA Shield final was something phenomenal. Can I quote one thing? I have listened to our first president of India, the greatest democracy of the world, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He said in Delhi that he was a student in Presidency College. I'm having my hair grows. He said, "Gentlemen, do you understand? I was as a student in Presidency College. We got the shout goal from Maidan to Presidency College is almost about 4 to 5 kilometers distance. Such was the sound. Such was the sound of the people of India. Such was the voice of Mohun Bagan supporters. And Indians, they did so much." He said that shout, goal came to us. And that kite they have been flying, and in the kite they have been writing Mohun Bagan 2, East York 1. It came flying from there. We have feel thrilled and we have all felt that is that, my dear, that Indian football has reborn again.
This is nothing to be surprised at. The team that is physically more fit, has sharp surveillance and intelligence, wins.
This convincing and significant victory started to make football extremely popular throughout the length and breadth of the country. Indians could no longer be convinced by the fantasies of the fanatics that football was a good-looking evil which sucked the blood of the players. The monopoly of British and European teams suffered a severe setback at the hands of Indian football.
That day, in 1911, an ardent supporter of Mohun Bagan asked the captain of the team, Shibdaj Bahaduri, "The English are defeated and you have raised the Mohun Bagan flag. But when is the Union Jack going to come down?" Bahaduri said, "The day when Mohun Bagan wins the IFA Shield next." And interestingly, it was in 1947 when Mohun Bagan again won the IFA Shield.
No account of Indian football can be complete with the story of Mavan Sporting Club, because it was a club which for the first time completely began to dominate Indian football in the 1930s, when the British teams used to defeat Indians in a long spell. The Mavan Sporting Club was actually founded in 1887 when its name was Jubilee Club. Its name was changed for thrice, Hamidiya Club, Crescent Club, and finally it came to become Mavan Sporting Club in 1891. In the first 4 decades of its existence, the club did not do much. But in the early 1930s, when it first time came to play in the first division of Calcutta football, it did something which was unprecedented in Indian football. In 1911, Mohun Bagan Club created history on the football field by defeating the East York Regiment and for the first time lifting the IF Shield. But its feat was not repeated in the next 2 decades. But Mavan Sporting Club from 1934 continuously for 5 in a row lifted the coveted IFA's First Division Football League. It was complemented by its win in the IFA Shield, Rovers Cup, Durand Cup, which was for the first time a feat achieved by any Indian team.
In the meantime, Goan football had experienced rapid progress. But it took another 75 years for the game to develop into a well-organized form. The Goa Football Association was constituted on the 22nd of December 1959. Following this, a visit of the world-famous league team Lisboa e Benfica in 1960 was an extraordinary event for Goa.
Our Goan football infrastructure is quite good as compared to many other parts of the country. But we are not satisfied. As the director of the Sports Authority of Goa, I have taken up this responsibility very recently. The government of Goa is proposing to create infrastructure, a good quality infrastructure at every village level within the next 2 years. The government has declared football as the official sport of Goa and has constituted what is called a Goa Football Development Council by giving a grant of 5 crores. This council will work towards a scientific research and development program to see that the youth of Goa are developed into good footballers.
In 1969, the All India Football Federation organized the Bandokar Gold Trophy as a national tournament. The tournament was held in 1970 and was the first major tournament in Goa. The 19th Santosh Trophy was hosted by Goa in 1972, and since then, Goa entered the mainstream of Indian football. Portuguese rule in Goa came to an end in 1961, and Salgaonkar Sports Club was invited to play in the prestigious Durand Cup in New Delhi. The team was felicitated by Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of independent India. The Dempo Sports Club of Panjim was sponsored by the Dempo Group of Companies. Dempo Sports Club was initially called Bishalin Football Club. When Demp Souza adopted the club in 1967, it came to be known as Dempo Souza Sports Club. Finally, Dempo Souza Sports Club rechristened itself as Dempo Sports Club. Today, Dempo Sports Club figures prominently in the football arena and is a formidable force. The Churchill brothers has been maintaining a high-profile football team for the last 2 decades. Churchill brothers began as Vaska Club in 1988 and was to become Brother Sporting Club after a year.
Rovers Cup was the blue ribbon tournament in Bombay, and it was to be eagerly looked forward to. In fact, the Rovers Cup used to be one of the longest tournaments in India, because there would be a pre-Rovers tournament in which teams from Western India would participate, and then the main Rovers tournament would take place at the Cooperage ground. And the Rovers also had a very rich history. Hyderabad Police from 1950 to 54 becoming the first and only team to win the tournament 5 years in a row. No team has done that before. Mohammedan Sporting doing very well in the late 1950s, then East Bengal and Mohun Bagan dominating. The Goa teams came into the forefront when Dempo won the Rovers Cup. Vesco was the first team from Goa to reach the Rovers Cup final in 1966, losing to Mohun Bagan with a goal by P. Kannan. And Goa teams really came into the limelight, Salgaonkar, Dempo and Vasco, by doing well in the Rovers Cup. So the Rovers Cup's major role has been in the promotion of Goa football, because that is how Goa teams came into the limelight. It is unfortunate that the Rovers Cup closed down in 2000, the last time the tournament was held. Mohun Bagan being coached by Subroto Bhattacharya, winning that tournament, beating Churchill Brothers 2-0 in the final.
Hyderabad has made a glorious contribution to Indian football by contributing the largest number of players to represent India in the Olympics. India participated in the Olympics in Helsinki, Melbourne and Rome in 1952, 1956 and 1960. The effective stewardship of that legendary coach, Syed Abdul Rahim from Hyderabad, formed the nucleus of the Indian team for all these 3 Olympics.
Mr. Rahim was a wonderful gentleman. He was very resolute. He has created a new methodology and new theory for the Indian football. Indian football was always playing something good, sometimes bad, sometimes outstanding, sometimes not so good. These are the things. It depends on the follower, it depends on the spirit of the game, and it depends about so many other things. Mr. Rahim, being a school headmaster, he could explain and narrate things so well that the players were very happy under him, number one. And number two, he was a dominating character, being a headmaster. He knew his students and people, how much he should train them and what type of word he would utilize. And everybody used to say, Rahim Saab, Rahim Saab, Rahim Saab.
Our great coach Rahim Saab, who has lent his support for the Indian team since 1952. He was the coach for the Indian team in 1952, 56 and thereafter in 60 and 62. He was an extremely thoughtful person and a great dynamic man, and foresight was exceedingly well. He knew the nuances and rudimentaries of the football so well that our team really was and turned out to be a good team in Asia, why not the best team in Asia those days. So we are also grateful to great man Rahim Saab of Hyderabad.
Rahim understood the problems of his players. He knew how to motivate them and get the best out of them. This is what really made him a great coach. He was a great thinker. In Hyderabad, why Hyderabad became such a great center of football, he used to have age group tournaments, 1-foot tournaments. In the local parks in the summer and winter, there would be schools playing all the time. Schools would play only with, you had a small tournament where you could only kick with your left foot or only with your right foot, or only one-touch tournaments or 2-touch tournaments, non-dribbling tournaments. So he was very innovative. He helped to create this great team spirit and his ability to spot players. He was in Secunderabad and he saw Balaram, Narayan and D. Kannan play in a practice match, and he realized that they were great players. He persuaded them to come for the Santosh Trophy trials when Hyderabad was staging the tournament in 1956. And there all 3 of them came and played, and as the rest, as they say, is history, all went on to play for India. He used to give them, because Secunderabad was far away from Hyderabad, so he gave each one of these players 25 paisa, what was known as 4 annas in those days, so that they could hire a cycle to cycle from Secunderabad to Hyderabad.
Mr. Rahim adopted a theory. It is nothing 4-4, he was the first time to adopt, but in 4-4, during playing as 4-4, 3-5 he changed. From there he brought 3-3-4, 3 back, 3 midfielder against Yugoslavia and against Bulgaria in the quarter-final, semi-final stage. So, as he knew his players' ability, our physical fitness, our running ability, our speed, our ball control, our touch, our feelings, our shooting ability, everything he knew. So he prepared the team. And believe me, that team only won the 62 Asian Games. That 60 Olympic team came to 62 Asian Games and we beat Korea, Japan, all the teams. So Mr. Rahim tried very hard to have coaching camp and train them for a month and so. And the team in 1960 played pretty well. But as I said, if the team would have been there in 56, probably we have won, we could have come to the final. But doesn't matter. In 56, we have produced certain good football and we brought some standard, we brought some prestige for the country, and the team had the position of 4th.
The squad to the Helsinki Olympiad had 3 Hyderabadis: Syed Khwaja Azizuddin, Noor Muhammad, and S.K. Moinuddin. In Melbourne, this number jumped to 8 and included players like Tulsidas Balaram, Mohammad Zulfikaruddin, Peter Thankaraj, and Ahmed Hussain. India finished 4th in the Melbourne Olympics. Until date, this is considered the country's best performance. India defeated Australia by 4-2. Neville D'Souza from Goa was the first Asian footballer to have scored a hat-trick in the Olympics. Yusuf Khan, S.S. Hakim, and Habibul Hassan Hamid were among the 6 players selected from Hyderabad for the Rome Olympics.
The golden era of Indian football was really from 1956 to 1964. During this span of 8 years, India won the gold medal in the 1962 Asian Games at Jakarta, finished 4th in the 1956 Melbourne Olympics, the first time an Asian country had reached the semi-finals of the Olympics. Then in the 1964 Asia Cup, India finished runners-up to Israel in Tel Aviv. So we really had outstanding results. Now it was not only the question of results, it was the entertaining, attractive football that India used to play. That at that stage they were called the Brazil of Asia. In 1959 in the Mardika tournament, India were the unbeaten runners-up. And every tournament organizer in Asia wanted to invite the Indian national team to participate because India entertained the crowds with their skillful attacking football.
1956 অলিম্পিক্সে গিয়ে আমরা যে রেজাল্টস করেছে যে ফার্স্ট রাউন্ডে হচ্ছে আমরা অস্ট্রেলিয়াকে পেয়েছে, অস্ট্রেলিয়াকে আমরা 4-2 জিতেছে। তারপর একটা টিম আসতে পারিনি, তার জন্য আমরা ওয়াকওভার পেয়েছি। ওয়াকওভার পেয়ে তারপর আমরা সেমিফাইনাল ডাইরেক্টলি কোয়ালিফাই করে গেলাম। কোয়ালিফাই করেছে, আমাদের ফার্স্ট ম্যাচ হচ্ছে মেলবোর্ন স্টেডিয়ামে আমাদের খেলা হচ্ছে। মেলবোর্নে আমরা খেলছি, যে মেলবোর্ন স্টেডিয়াম মানে এমনি ওই স্টেডিয়াম দেখলে প্রথমবার দেখার পরে আমার মনটা ভরে গেছে, আমাদের এমন একটা স্পিরিটেড হয়ে গেছে, আমরা ভাবতে পারিনি, আমরা স্বপ্ন দেখছি এরকম জায়গা থেকে আমরা খেলতে সুযোগ পেয়েছি। আর এখানে তো আমাদের জায়গা খেলতে হবে, আমাদের ভারতটাকে উপরে দেখাতে হবে যে ভারতরাই ফুটবল, ইন্ডিয়ানরাও ফুটবল খেলতে পারে। 68 মিনিটস অবধি আমরা চেকোস্লোভাকিয়া এগেনস্টে আমরা 1 গোলে লিড করছিলাম। লিড করে তারপরে আমরা যে রাখতে পারিনি, এই জন্যে ওখানকার কন্ডিশন হচ্ছে এত ঠান্ডা, কোল্ড কন্ডিশন, ওতে বোধহয় ওখানে তখন 04, 05 এরকম টেম্পারেচার হয়ে গেছিলো সেই দিন ওই মেলবোর্ন টাইমে। আর আমাদের হচ্ছে হ্যাবিচুয়েটেড নেই, আমরা এরকম ক্যালকাটাতে হট ওয়েদারে প্র্যাকটিস করে ওখানে গেছে। এই অসুবিধের জন্যে আমরা 68 মিনিটস অবধি লড়তে পেরেছি, তারপর আমরা লড়তে পারি নাই, আমরা ক্লান্ত হয়ে গেছে, ক্র্যাম্প ধরতে শুরু করেছে। তারপরে আমরা কিছু না করাতে আমরা কিন্তু তারপরে 3-1 আমরা হেরে গেছি। যে স্ট্যানলি রোজ তখন হচ্ছে ফিফা প্রেসিডেন্ট ছিলেন, উনি ভিআইপি গ্যালারি থেকে বসে খেলা দেখেছিলেন আমাদের ইন্ডিয়ান ফুটবলদের। আমাদের খেলা দেখে উনি নিজে নেমে চলে এসছেন, ড্রেসিং রুমে চলে এসেছেন। ড্রেসিং রুমে এসে আসা মানে দ্যাট ইজ দ্য গ্রেটেস্ট অ্যাচিভমেন্ট ফর দ্য ইন্ডিয়ান ফুটবল। উনি এসে আমাদের জিজ্ঞেস করছেন, দিস ইজ দ্য ইন্ডিয়ান টিম। আমরা 1952-তে আমি দেখেছি যে অল ইউর ইন্ডিয়ান প্লেয়ার্স প্লেড উইথ দ্য ব্যার ফুটেড, নাও ইউ আর ইউজিং দ্য বুট। আর ওই বুটটা হচ্ছে ব্রাজিলিয়ান মতন স্কিল, এত সুন্দরভাবে আপনার রিয়েলি সত্যি ফুটবল বুটে ইউজ করছেন। এটা কীভাবে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করেছেন, রাইম সাহেবকে ডেকে বলেছেন আপনি হাউ ইট কুড বি পসিবল, আপনারা 4 বছর মধ্যে এই ফুটবল বুটটা ইন্ট্রোডিউস করে এত বিউটিফুল ফুটবল খেলছে, এত বিউটিফুল কন্ট্রোল, এত একটা ব্রাজিলিয়ান মতন আপনার স্কিল রয়েছে, কী করে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করছেন? দিস ইজ অ্যান গ্রেটেস্ট লেসন। আমরা ফিফাতে আমরাকে ডাকবো, আপনি এখানে এসে লেকচার দেবেন কীভাবে আপনি যে এটা ইন্ট্রোডিউস করেছেন। ইন 1962তেও সেম আমাদের কোনো পজিশন মানে খাবার দাবার কোনো কিছু ছিল না। হায়দ্রাবাদে ট্রেনিং করা হয়েছে যে সিপাহী পুলিশ সিপাহীগুলো যেখানে ব্যারেক্সে শুয়ে থাকে ওই ব্যারেক্সের মধ্যে আমাদের একটা আয়রন কাঠ দিয়ে তার উপরে আমাদের বেডিং নিজে ক্যারি করতে হয়েছে। সেই বেডিংয়ের উপরে আমরা শুয়ে ব্যারেক্সের মধ্যে যেখানে জওয়ান শুয়ে থাকতো ইন্ডিয়ান অলিম্পিক্স টিম ওখানে শুয়ে প্র্যাকটিস করেছি।
1960, when we were preparing for the Olympic Games, we were training in Hyderabad for almost 2.5 months. We didn't have any kind of hotels at that time. We stayed in a police barracks, shared dormitory, no proper food, but we didn't complain. It was the Olympic year, and all we were doing was to train hard to get into the Olympic team.
We thought that our football was at peak during our period. Myself, Indranil Singh, P.K. Banerjee, Arun Ghosh and Thangaraj, amongst the best of the football players we have seen during my period of captaincy for the country. But then we also took the cue from the great teams like in the year 1948 under the captaincy of Shoilan Manna, Taj Muhammad, Ahmed Khan, Raman. In fact, Indian football started gloriously since 1948 in the London Olympics, when they were beaten narrowly by the France team in 2-1. And from 48, a long journey to 62 is in between. We have had Olympics of 1956, when India became fourth in the Olympics, and 1962 is the glorious year for us to have won the gold medal.
The golden period of Indian football was really the decade of the 1950s. Coach Syed Abdul Rahim modernized Indian football and made our team a power to reckon with. We reached the bronze medal playoff at the Olympics and were invited to play World Cup football. But although this was the highest point of Indian football, what did we do? We decided not to participate.
The commonly ascribed reasons for this non-participation or withdrawal of Indian football team from the Brazil World Cup of 1950 are lack of foreign reserves, the apprehension about sea journey which was long and arduous, Indian football teams' lack of chances against the topmost world-class teams in Brazil. But the most important reason, which was not mentioned in the history of Indian football, is the fact that how All India Football Federation appallingly failed to cope up with the problems of contemporary football administration.
India became the Asian Games champion in 1951 when we defeated Iran. But the Indian football team suffered a setback after its defeat in the 1952 Olympics. But thereafter, it was a successful journey. India won the quadrangular trophy consecutively for 3 years in 1953, 54 and 55. India finished second in the Manila Asian Games in 1954. India ranked fourth in the 1958 Asian Games held in Tokyo. The brilliance and excellence of Indian football was last observed in the Jakarta Asian Games. Coach S.A. Rahim, with his expertise, trained our boys so well that India won a gold medal after defeating South Korea by 2-1. This victory could have been a stepping stone to re-glorify Indian football and serve as a gateway for our football to return to the mainstream and regain world recognition. But the reverse has happened. Over the years, Indian football has experienced a sharp decline, a steep descent, and presently is nothing more than a regional recognition. FIFA has ranked Indian football amongst the last.
But the best lot after 1970 was 1982 Asian Games when Bhaskar Ganguly was the captain, then Parmar, Prasanto Banerjee, Prasun Banerjee, Manoranjan, Videsh, C.B. Thapa, Parminder, and they were all playing Compton Datta, Alok, Aslam Khan. And that was the last good batch of Indian football. After that, I didn't see any player of that caliber. Today, the thing is, I think after that, if any good player was there after Habib and Inder Singh and Sujit Sen Gupta, that was IMV Jain.
There was an analysis done between 1996 and 1999, the career span of Saurav Ganguly and Bhaichung Bhutia, both starting their international careers round about the same time. In that span of time, Saurav played about over 100 international matches, including one-dayers, in which all were telecast live. Bhaichung Bhutia in that span of time of 3 to 4 years barely played 15 to 20 international matches for India, in which barely 3 or 4 would have been, maybe 5 to 6 would have been telecast live. That was really the difference, why cricket went so far ahead of Indian football. Just the publicity wasn't there, the marketing wasn't there.
It's actually ironic that despite a flourishing economy and handsome disbursement of funds in the field of sports, Indian football should continue to languish in such a lowly condition. The main cause behind this could be the non-professional as well as the nonchalant attitude of officials coupled with political interference. Internal differences have stood as unconquerable barriers in the progress of this country's football. And the result is that Indian football has started experiencing its lowest possible low.
The only way a sport can grow is by bringing in professionalism into the game. The lack of it was the reason for the decline of the game.
Government should think for the international footballs, how we can go ahead for the internationally. Like when England lose any World Cup matches or international matches, in the parliament the question arises, a question comes. They question why they lost in it. So that is the interest in Europe and other countries. But here they hardly bother where we are playing internationally, where we lose, why we are not again participating in Asian Games even once we were the champion. And now why not even we are getting a chance in Asian Games. We are playing some small tournaments internationally. So this is, I think, reason that we are so much lacking in international ranking or standard is so poor internationally. It's not that I will not say that I think our standard has gone down. The other country has improved. Like other countries like Japan, South Korea, once we beat South Korea, Japan. I still remember in Merdeka. Like today they are playing World Cup. So they are just improving this football in a running way, But we are still thinking that one step of improvement, development, we are still thinking to put that step down for the improvement. That is the problem of our in football.
In Hyderabad, which was once a major center of football, the game continued to suffer because it remained an amateur sport. With the advent of satellite television and the increasing popularity of the English Premier League and the UEFA Champions League, interest in watching Indian football has declined among the younger generation. The game is still confined to a few states, Bengal, Goa, Kerala, the northeastern states, and small areas in Mumbai and Delhi. In the last 3 decades, successes have been limited. Since 1960, India has not qualified for the Olympics and never made it to the World Cup finals. The last Asian Games quarter-final appearance was in Delhi in 1982, a bronze medal in the 1970 Bangkok Asian Games, and joint winners with Iran in the Asian Youth Championship in 1974, were the only achievements at the continental level. Lack of international success has led to a decline in media and spectator interest in Indian football. However, we pinned our hopes and continue to do so, on young footballers from northeast India. Baichung Bhutia from Sikkim was a ray of hope in Indian football.
Calcutta was and still today is mecca of Indian football, and if you want to make career in football, Calcutta was the destination those days. It was something like a dream when I got an offer from East Bengal to play, and the main reason obviously coming here and foreseeing was to make a living out of playing football. It's been, there have been obviously some bad moments as well, but on the whole for me it's been a good experience, and I only have good memories from all the 3 clubs I played. I think, as everybody says, we need to have a good infrastructure, youth development, and I think overall structural and system change in Indian football. That is where we lack big time. So unless we don't do that, it becomes very, very difficult, because that's the way you produce good quality players, through youth development and infrastructure. And the system and the structure in Indian football needs to change, because it brings in more professionalism. Whether it's professional people or a politician or a bureaucrat, you need to have a knowledge about the game, how to take the game forward. And I think in India the biggest challenge right now is we don't have that knowledge and ideas to take the game forward, and that's the biggest challenge. The reality is, I think we've got coaches who can become a very, very good coaches, but it's same like footballers. We have players with huge talent and we've got coaches with huge talent, but same with players as well as coaches, that we don't have coaches to be trained properly, because football is changed so much and our coaches need to be trained.
It wouldn't be irrelevant to mention the name of Salim Mohammed, who was the first Indian to have got the opportunity of playing club football 60 years ago. And when it comes to football in India, Kolkata is undoubtedly the Mecca. The city is considered the home of football in India. The euphoria of the spectators is unparalleled. Thousands of supporters of East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, and the Mohammedan Sporting Club fill up the stadiums whenever these rivals clash. Corporate houses like UV, Kingfisher, Chirag, Techno India, the Poilan Group, etc. are sponsoring football in a big way to uplift the game and restore its lost glory. Football greats, from Pelé to Maradona to Lionel Messi, have all graced Kolkata with their presence. Kolkata saw yet another World Cup winner. Diego Forlan was received with a lot of warmth by football lovers in the city, and Oliver Kahn graced the city of Kolkata to play the last match of his illustrious career. Hiring footballers from foreign countries is an age-old practice for football clubs in India. East Bengal and Mohun Bagan, the 2 most reputed clubs of Kolkata, are among the major hirers of international footballers. Over the years, skilled and talented international footballers have come to play for Indian football clubs and have entertained the football lovers of the country.
When it came to my mind to study further graduation, so I selected India along with my friend Majid. Both of us, we came to India for studying. East Bengal was interested in getting the foreign player, and those days there were hardly any foreign player except Davis William. So they contacted us in Rovers Cup after watching our performance as a Aligarh University in Rovers Cup. They contacted us and they brought us to Calcutta, and that was how we started playing in Indian football and Calcutta as a East Bengal team member.
And I just come to see how was the field, how was the football here, and I just fell in love. I think if there is no investment in the youth development, it will not work. It will be only dream, year by year, it will be a dreaming. I think investment in youth development is the main thing. If the full focus will be on that, so I really believe that one day India can be in the level that everyone is dreaming. I've been very happy here and been playing as a player. been quite successful, and I'm saying really enjoying my time here.
Well, I haven't been in India from 1985. I was here from 1985 to 1993, and then I went to live in England. But within that period, I was in India permanently, 85 to 93. It was good, you know. I noticed that there's passion for football, and especially in Calcutta and Goa, and maybe like Kerala, which is enough because those are like countries itself. And it's the same in my country. There's passion for football. Football is the leading sport in my country.
যখন আমরা খেলেছি বিদেশি টিমের সঙ্গে আমাদের থেকে ওরা স্ট্রেংথ স্ট্যামিনায় অনেক এগিয়ে ছিল, টেকনিক্যালি অনেক স্ট্রং ছিল, এবং আমরা কিছু কিছু টাইমে কোনো সময় আমরা যথেষ্ট ভালো খেলতাম, আমাদের টিম যথেষ্ট ভালো ফাইট করতো, কোনো সময় আমরা জিতিনি তা নয়। এর কারণগুলো হচ্ছে যে আমাদের যে ফেসিলিটিসগুলো আমরা প্লেয়ারদের দিই সেগুলো ওদের মতন হয় না। যেমনি ওরা স্ট্রেংথ অ্যান্ড স্ট্যামিনাটাকে কন্টিনিউ করতে গেলে যে মানে আমাদের ফেসিলিটিসগুলো দরকার আছে সেগুলো আমাদের ভারতবর্ষের ফুটবলে ছিল না, এবং সেইগুলো আস্তে আস্তে যখন ইমপ্লিমেন্ট হবে তখন আমার মনে হয় যে ভারতবর্ষের ফুটবলাররা আরও ভালো খেলতে পারবে। অ্যাট প্রেজেন্ট যেমনি আমাদের ভারতবর্ষের ফুটবল আগের থেকে অনেক ইমপ্রুভ করেছে, আমার মনে হয় যে আরও দিন ডে বাই ডে আরও ইমপ্রুভ করে যাবে।
In Mumbai, football is on the upswing. It may not match the hype and the glamour of cricket, but the profile of the sport is definitely changing.
The Santosh Trophy is an annual Indian football tournament which began in 1941 and was the premier football competition in the country before the National Football League. The Santosh Trophy is named after the late Maharaja Sir Monmouthnath Roy Chaudhary of Santosh.
The Durand tournament has a great history. The Durand tournament used to initially be played at Simla, the summer capital of the British Raj. It used to be like the Wimbledon of India. The last weeks of September, before the British moved from Simla to Delhi, their winter capital, the Durand tournament used to be held. It used to be held on Anandale, and it used to be an event which had a lot of ceremony and tradition. There would be strawberries and cream, and people would come dressed up. The Durand tournaments were on display in the mall in Simla. It was a great occasion to watch the Durand final. Now, the first time the Durand was held in Delhi was in 1940 because of the Second World War. Britain hadn't shifted to their summer capital. The capital remained at Delhi. That was a remarkable year that Mohammedan Sporting also reached the final of the Durand tournament. And also what is important is that we had an Indian referee for the first time, Captain Harnam Singh. Now when Harnam Singh reached what was then the Irwin Amphitheatre, packed crowd because Mohammedan Sporting there, 50 to 60,000 people had assembled on the ramparts. There were no really fixed seats except in a small part of the stadium. Trains had come from Aligarh, Bhopal, all over with Mohammedan Sporting supporters. Suryavadi and his cabinet had flown in from Bengal. And the British linesmen, sergeant officers Oliphant and Green, refused to cooperate, this type of non-cooperation movement against an Indian referee. They said, we won't go onto the field with an Indian referee, we don't trust him. The Durand officials tried persuading them, but they remained adamant. Then Lord Linlithgow, who was then the Viceroy of India, came to the stadium. As per tradition, Lord Linlithgow, later on independent India, the President of India would come and give away the trophies. Lord Linlithgow, when appraised of this problem, took prompt action and said, court-martial the officers if they do not cooperate. Realizing that their threats had not worked, both Sergeant officers Oliphant and Green backed down, relented, and then cooperated with Harnam Singh. Harnam Singh later did admit that when they did back down, they gave him full cooperation and they worked as a team. Harnam Singh was so nervous going on to that field that Major Potter, who was in charge of the referees, realized that this man is trembling, there's added pressure, the linesmen may not work with him. So he gave him a cup of cocoa and laced with brandy because he wanted his nerves to settle down. So Harnam Singh didn't know that brandy had been put in that cup of cocoa. He thought he was just getting a cup of cocoa. But he got that brandy and he relaxed and then went on to the field. And luckily for Indian football, Mohammedan Sporting went and beat the Royal Warwickshire Regiment in that match and became heroes. So the Durand has so many stories like that. The first independent in Durand in independent India in 1950, the legendary Hyderabad City Police against Mohun Bagan. The great Mohun Bagan team captained by Sholyan Manna, leading 2-0. Then Mannada got injured and had to leave the Mohun Bagan goalkeeper got injured, had to leave the field. No substitutes were allowed. And Mohun Bagan had to play one shot, Manna going in goal himself, Hyderabad Police equalizing 2-2. In fact, Laik scoring, the inside right Laik scoring with the last kick of the match. And the supporters were so enthralled, so excited that they invaded the field. And in fact, poor Laik, some people kissed him so enthusiastically that in their excitement and pushing, he was bitten on the cheek. So he couldn't play the replay. Laik missed the replay. Money is coming to Indian football. We have a youth development policy. Full credit to Bob Houghton, the former coach, who had really bullied and cajoled the All India Football Federation to develop a more comprehensive plan in developing talent. Previously, it used to be haphazard or used to be sort of a question of good luck, players coming more by chance, and training for the junior teams, junior age group teams used to be just before Asian Championships. Now we have this youth development program where training continues all the time, and with the help of sponsors, Indian youth teams travel abroad. We've had a whole bunch of very talented under 14 players playing for a year in the IMG Academy in Florida, and people like Uttam Rai have really developed in that, scored hat-tricks when he played for the India sub-junior under-16 team in the Asian zonal matches and helped India reach the Asian Championship final round.
In 2007, AIFF started a program to develop teams at various levels. The aim of this program was to have the Indian national team among the first 16 teams in Asia by the year 2014. I think if this program is followed and continued, we can achieve this. Once we are in top 16 in Asia, we got a realistic chance to be first in the Asia Cup finals and then maybe by the year 2022 in the World Cup finals.
I would prefer that Indian football should go into development at the grassroots level, but with total professionalism and with total exposure for the youngsters. It's not just training and building them up. And I would prefer that the development should go through best of the brains. Intelligent people should come in. Intelligent youngsters we have to find out. Highly skillful players you have to find out. And doesn't matter. I don't believe that height will prove totally so important to us. Height, in the sense that so long we are strong enough to play football, good skill and intelligent players. If you get youngsters, if you can pick them up and give them exposure to the international level, especially in Asia, number one, and then we have to progress beyond Asia.
I think the youth development and the grassroots programs which the AIFF has now prioritized is the most important thing for Indian football. The AIFF in the last few months have decided to set up 4 regional academies in the age group of 14 to 16 and an elite academy in the age group of 16 to 18. This is a very ambitious program, and in the next few years we hope to see a lot of development activities being carried out in these academies, and probably in 5 to 6 years we would get some very good positive results. FIFA is completely supporting us in this venture, both from a financial perspective as well as a technical perspective.
There must be light at the end of the tunnel. Let history move and let it tend towards hope. FIFA is extending its helping hand to third world countries for the development of football. If the economically weak countries of Africa can make a place in world-class football, if the world acknowledges the talents of the war-torn countries of Eastern Europe, if the poor countries of Latin America have made their presence felt, then why can't our footballers? We may have miles and miles to go, but let us look at the stars.